Welcome to Vintage Variety. Welcome to Vintage Variety. For today's content, I'm going to be creating two necklaces inspired by the new remake of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This film became available for streaming on Netflix November the 6th. Even if you haven't saw the film, there's been tons of shorts, behind the scene clips, and other information floating around online. What drew me to the film was the jewelry. For the production, Tiffany CO loaned the set a total of 27 items, 10 of which were jewelry, and some of those pieces were from Tiffany's historic archives. The most talked about pieces were a stunning diamond necklace from the 1900s, an Egyptian revival necklace. This one is known as the Freville Scarab beetle necklace, and it's said to be from 1914. Then there was this necklace, and I think this is absolutely beautiful. So it's my understanding that this necklace was created specifically for the film. It was designed by the film's costume designer in collaboration with Tiffany's. I wouldn't mind owning any or all of these beautiful necklaces, but my two favorites are the Scarab beetle necklace and the cross pendant necklace. So for today's content, I thought it would be both fun and challenging to create some inspired pieces. Keep in mind that the necklaces that I'm going to make today, they aren't going to be replicas of those that were used in the film. Instead, these are going to be my own unique inspired creations. So we're going to get started, but before we do, if you've seen the film or if you've seen any of the clips or pictures floating around online, drop me a comment. I would love to know which pieces of jewelry from that film were your favorites. First, I'm going to create the cross pendant, or at least I'm going to attempt to. I'm going to be using some 18 gauge jewelry wire and some 22 gauge jewelry wire. This is what my idea is. I'm going to cross one wire over the other and add beads onto it. And these are 6mm beads. So I've cut two pieces of the 18 gauge wire, and I'm going to cross one over the other. And I'm going to use the more flexible 22 gauge wire to wrap those pieces together. I'm going to hold the two pieces of 18 gauge wire in a cross, just like that. And I'm going to use the 22 gauge wire to secure them together. Of course, this is probably an awkward way of doing this. My fingers and my thumb, they are in the way, so I'm having to move my thumb in order to tighten the wire up. I'm going to go around a couple of times in one direction, and then I'll switch it up and go in the other direction so that it's nice and neat and equally wrapped on both sides. Now that I've wrapped this a few times, I feel like it's sturdy enough. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and put some of the beads on it and see how this holds up. I do have some excess wire, but I'm not going to cut that wire off yet because I just want to make sure that everything looks right. I'm going to use my wire loopers to get in really close here, as close as possible as I can to the beads, and I'm just going to loop this wire off to hold the beads on. This is going to have loops on all the ends of it, but I have to have a way to hold the beads on here. I did think about using a finial bead or maybe some type of a crimp cover bead, but I'm not sure I have the right materials on hand, so I'm just going to do it this way. This is how my cross pendant looks. Yes, it looks a little handmade, it looks a little rustic, and you know what? I'm okay with that because, as I've said, this is an inspired piece, not an exact copy. To make the beaded strands of the necklace, I'm going to be using 6mm red glass beads, 4mm red glass beads. I'm also going to be using these connectors. These are for making multi-strand necklaces. For the closure on this necklace, I'm going to repurpose an old spring ring that I had laying around. That will go on one side of the multi-strand connector, and on the other side, I'm just going to add a jump ring. In fact, I may add several jump rings so that this necklace will have an extender, because the goal is to have this necklace lay at a shorter length, more of a princess length. I'm also going to be using some flexible bead stringing wire. This one is kind of like an antique gold tone. I'll show you the package it comes on. This is a very fine wire, and I like it because it's very fine, but it's sturdy and flexible. I paused recording while I was getting all of my beads laid out on the beading board, and I'm going to explain everything to you guys. So I have my beads, I have all of my connectors that I'm going to be using. I also have some gold tone spacer beads, and I had thought about using them in this project, but I'm having second thoughts, so I don't think I'm going to add those to the necklace. Now, I know it looks kind of crazy the way everything's laid out here, but I'm going to explain it to you guys. First of all, I have my cross pendant that's going to go in the center on the longest strand of beads. Much like the necklace in the movie, the shortest strand of beads is going to be choker length. So I have this laid out. You can see the 8-inch mark on each side of the board. So that's going to be 16 inches in length. And choker length is usually between 12 to 16 inches depending on the size of your neck. The second row of beads is laid out at the 10 mark. It's going to be 20 inches in length. And then the third and longest row of beads is laid out at the 11 mark. It's going to be 22 inches in length. So what I'm trying to do here is I do want there to be a gap, a good sized gap between the shortest row and the two longest rows. And that's hopefully how that's going to look once I get everything beaded up. Because I still have another inspired necklace to create, I am going to bead everything up off camera. I'll come back and I'll show you the finished result. Now, if you have not watched my previous jewelry making videos or jewelry repair videos, go back and watch those just so you can see the process of that. It's a pretty simple process of putting the beads on the wire and then adding the connectors. But just in case you're new to creating pieces of jewelry of your own and you want to see how that's done, you can look back at those older videos. So I'm going to get started and I'll be back in a few minutes and show you the end result. This is my completed necklace and I'm rather pleased with the way it turned out. I will put this on the necklace stand so you can see how it would lay on the neck, but first I wanted to show you how it's put together at the back. I did use the triple strand necklace findings. I added a closure onto it, and I did add some extra jump rings so that I would be able to extend the length of this necklace. Here's a look at my necklace on the necklace stand just to give you guys an idea of how it would look once it's worn. Of course, the necklace stand is a lot smaller than a person's neck, so this necklace is going to be a short length. You can see that there's quite a bit of a gap between the shortest strand of the necklace and the bottom strands. That is the look I was going for based on the necklace that was used in the movie. I'm also going to put up a thumbnail of the necklace from the movie, and you can see that mine differs from it quite a bit. My beads are a lot darker, and from what I researched on the internet, I found two different sources. One source claims that the beads are coral beads, and the other source claimed that they were ruby. My necklace is more of a bright red, whereas the necklace from the movie is more of an orange tone. But I'm very happy with the way this looks and the way it turned out. You guys let me know what you think of my creation in the comments. And now let's move along and create the second necklace. For the second necklace, I am once again going to use the gold tone stringing wire. I'm also going to be using some glass beads. These look like tiny scarab beetles. These are a lot smaller than what I would have liked, and they're not as detailed as the necklace that was in the film. You could make this necklace using larger beads or a different color of beads if you wanted to, but this was what I chose. It was the only size I could find in this color. Now these have an AB type coating on them, kind of like a glow, or they change colors when the light hits them. That's probably not going to show up very well on camera, but I will show you in the package. You can see when the light hits it, the color kind of changes. And the necklace in the film kind of had a peacock tone, like peacock pearls to it. So that's what I was going for. But if you wanted to make this necklace, you could use any color or any size of your choice. I'm also going to be using these oblong connector beads. You can see that the bead has a hole in each end. And I've seen these used in different jewelry products. They're really great pieces for making earrings. But these are going to be placed in between the beetles. I'll show you the container that they came in. So they sell these on Amazon, and I already had a package of these, but I realized right off I wasn't going to have enough. And you can see that this is an assortment, so I ended up having to order 2 more packages. And for those of you that are interested, I purchased these Scarab beetle beads off of Etsy. Another item I'm going to be using to construct this necklace are these tiny gold tone spacer beads. I have them in 3 different sizes, and these are probably going to be incorporated into the back of the necklace because I don't think I'm going to have quite enough of the Scarab beetle beads to make it go all the way around the back of the neck. For the necklace clasp, my original plan was to use this old box clasp, but I don't think that's going to work. Instead, I'm probably going to be using a lobster claw closure, and that way if I want to add an extender to this necklace and wear it at a longer length, I will be able to do that. This is going to be a relatively short necklace also, but it's going to take a lot of wire for the construction of it. So I measured about 16 inches for one wire, and then I doubled it and added an extra 5 inches for the clasp. And for the second wire, which has to be a little bit longer, I measured 18 inches, doubled that, and added an additional 5 to 6 inches for the clasp. And as I start constructing this, you will understand why it's going to take a lot of extra wire. I did cut probably more than I needed, but at the end, when I get ready to put the clasp on, I will do away with the excess wire. So I'm going to start off with this elongated bead. And I have cut 2 pieces of wire. I'm going to take 1 piece of wire and I'm going to go in one side of the bead, just like this. Pull it through a little bit. Then I'm going to take my other piece of wire that I cut and I'm going to go in the opposite side of the bead and push it through. So you guys can see how this looks. I've got wires going in opposite directions. I'm going to add one of my Scarab beads on each end of the gold tone spacer bead that I've put on here. And I have to tell you guys, I did make a mistake. I had to go back and edit this. You can see here where I've put both strands of wire through this beetle bead. And you don't want to do that. You're only going to use 1 strand of wire, and the other strand is going to be left loose because that other strand is going to be what you put your clasp on at the end. But this is how the beetle beads look on each end of this. Doesn't really look great, but it will. You'll see as the process goes along. Now here you can see that I've adjusted that. I've got 1 strand of wire running through each beetle bead, and there's 1 strand that's loose. Now I'm going to take my elongated spacer bead that I'm using here, and I'm going to run the wire in opposite directions through it, just like I did in the beginning. And once I get the wire through there, I'm going to very gently start pulling to tighten this up. This is a lot of wire, so you need to go slowly because it will get tangled. And just take your time, and when you get up to the top, you're not going to pull everything really hard because you may pull your wire out of the beads. So now that I've got this pretty close to the top, tighten it up a little. I'm going to take those loose pieces of wire, and you can see I've got to get this untangled. This is where a second pair of hands would come in really handy. So I've got it untangled, and now I'm going to tug gently, and it tightens everything up. So you gotta kind of get an idea of how this necklace is going to come together. I'm going to continue doing this. I'm going to add in the scarab beetle beads, one on each side. Then I will add the elongated bead, and on that one I'm going to put the wire in opposite directions just like I did in the beginning, and that's how I'm going to build this necklace. I am going to speed this video up. You guys will still be able to see what I'm doing and all of the different steps. Once I get so far along in this necklace, I will stop and talk about the progress and just let you guys know what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I accidentally stopped recording and I got this far before I realized it. I still have quite a ways to go, but I did want to show you guys my progress. I think this is going to look really neat. Up here at the top, I didn't put a top knot or anything, but I just kind of looped these pieces to keep them out of my way. So one thing I wanted to point out with this necklace is you can see how this is put together. So we have the top strand and the bottom strand of the scarab beads. As I go along, I'm probably going to not tighten up the wire on the bottom strand as much. And the reason for that is I want this necklace to kind of lay on the neck like a collar necklace. So you know, you could make this and just make it like a choker if you wanted to. But if you put an extender on it, it's really not going to lay on your neck the way you would like. So my goal is to have this necklace be in almost a circular shape, to have a curve to it. And in order to achieve that, as I go along through the project, the bottom part of the necklace, the wire in it's going to have to be slightly looser. I'm trying to shape it out here just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. It's not going to be able to curve and lay flat around the neck unless I do that. And I'm going to try to show you guys where I've already started loosening it up a little bit. So right here you can see at the bottom where I've already just very carefully went bead by bead and just kind of started loosening up the wire, and it's already starting to form kind of a curve. So I think this is going to sit on the neck beautifully. Just to give you guys a bit of a better demonstration as to how I loosened this, I'm holding one side straight and then I'm just starting at the end and just kind of loosening each bead as I go. And that's how I've done this to achieve a curvature in this necklace. So the next step of this necklace, I think, is I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to add a few more beads. I'm not going to have enough scarab beads for this necklace. So the way I'm going to end this necklace is I'm going to add another one of the elongated beads, and then I'm going to use those spacer beads. And I'm going to do the same thing with the spacer beads. I'm going to go in opposite directions and add those onto the wires, just like I did the elongated beads. And then I'll end with a single bead and I'll put the clasp on it. And once that's done, I'll come back and I'll show you, and I'll let you guys see how I did the back of the necklace also. So my necklace is all put together. This is how I did the back of this. I added the elongated bead. When I put the wire through these tiny gold tone spacer beads, I kind of crisscrossed the wires just like I did with the elongated bead. Then I came up and went through a single bead, and of course I attached the clasp and some jump rings, and at the end the wire is secured using a crimp tube. So now that I've shown you the back, let's have a look at the front so that you guys can see my completed necklace. I'm very pleased with the way this turned out. I feel like it turned out beautifully, and this would be a great technique if you wanted to make a collar necklace or a choker necklace or even a bracelet. And reminiscent of the film, how great are these peacock earrings with this necklace? I think it looks fabulous. I feel like creating both of these inspirational necklaces were really fun projects, and I really am happy with the way they turned out. You guys let me know in the comments which of the necklaces that I created today were your favorites, and if you enjoyed today's content, please remember to give me a thumbs up. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to share these projects with me. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. Ring the bell for notifications, and you'll be notified anytime I upload new content. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.